I'm Kath Lloyd from Make the Change, and this evening's session is about helping you to start understanding yourself better by learning more about yourself. You know, when you feel so desperate that you can feel yourself to be about to do something uncharacteristic. And the key is communication. Communication within yourself, communication within yourself. In other words, tapping into your self-talk and getting the right signals to the rest of your body. Then this will lead on to better communication with other people. However difficult it might be, there are two questions that you need to ask yourself, which I will be talking about later in the webinar. But just to make you aware, this session is being recorded, so please don't feel you need to pressurize yourself into writing everything down. And the links to the recording will be sent out to you tomorrow and will be available for 5 days. So, you know, you can go back to it, grab a cup of tea and sit down and relax and listen to it again. But before we get going, I want to take you through a little visualization exercise. You may have had a busy day and feel a bit rushed. So I just want you to get into the right frame of mind so you can have a really great relaxing session. And I would like you to take a moment and shut your eyes and take 3 deep breaths in and out. And whilst you're doing this, think of a time in your life when you felt great or good about yourself or your life. Keep breathing in and out and allow all the great thoughts and the feelings to come to the forefront of your mind. Concentrating on the great, the good, the lovely and the heartwarming things in your memory. What are you seeing? What are you seeing in this memory? What are you hearing? What are you feeling physically? What are you feeling emotionally? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? Lovely. Now take 3 more good deep breaths in and out. And as you breathe in, try breathing in all those great memories so that they store in the forefront of your memory bank. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Excellent. Thank you. The reason why I asked you to do this little exercise is because when life is tough, we can forget about these great times in our life. They just disappear off into the ethos, and it can be difficult to bring them back to the surface again. So during this hour, I want to introduce you to how you can start to develop more resilience from the heart-wrenching experiences that you go through. And when we're in these heart-wrenching times, we are putting ourselves under tremendous stress, and we can forget about ourselves and how to look after ourselves, you know, the basic things in life. So before we go any further, I want to run through a little bit about the effects of stress on our body. I mean, you know, we all feel stressed at times when we have a job interview, meeting the future in-laws for the first time, when driving and we suddenly have to slam on the brakes, or running that race to get the gold medal. But once this stress is over, our body relaxes and we return to normal. The problems arise, however, when we put ourselves under long-term stress and our body continues to produce the stress hormones, the adrenaline, the cortisol, which will then affect our long-term well-being. And these situations might include things like a busy family life, with excitable kids, a high-powered or stressful job, challenging relationships, financial problems, caring for elderly parents, or a long-term traumatic situation. And what we forget is our bodies are finely tuned machines. And so like any other machine, it needs to be looked after. So how can long-term stress affect our bodies? Well, first of all, our central nervous and endocrine system. Once the life-threatening situation is over, the hypothalamus in our brain will tell our body to relax and our systems will return to normal because the threat has gone. But if we are under constant stress, our body will keep producing the adrenaline and the cortisol and keep our body on the edge. And this edginess will then affect our respiratory and cardiovascular system. Our heart will beat faster and we will breathe more quickly to get the all-important oxygen around the body. The stress hormones will constrict our blood vessels and raise our blood pressure and also raise our heart rate. In other words, there will be more risk of panic attacks, heart palpitations, angina, heart attacks and stroke. So, the digestive system. Our digestive system will work less efficiently, giving rise to indigestion, acid reflux, ulcers, stomachache, nausea, constipation or diarrhea. The other problem is our liver will go into overdrive and produce extra glucose to boost our energy levels. And over a long period of time, this can increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. Moving on to the muscle systems, our stress hormones will increase the tension in our muscles to reduce the risk of injury. Normally, after the fight or flight, our body will relax and our muscles will return to normal to recover. But if under long-term stress, our muscles are under constant tension, giving rise to headaches, neck and shoulder and back pain. And when experiencing this, it's easy to turn to the painkillers and stop exercising because you're just feeling too uncomfortable. The other part of our bodies that can be affected are our sexual and reproduction systems. For men, testosterone levels will drop and interfere with sperm production and can cause erectile dysfunction. There can also be an increase in prostate and testes issues. For women, stress can affect her menstrual cycle with irregular, heavier and more painful periods. And for women of a certain age, so we're talking about me here, this can magnify the symptoms of the menopause. And finally, the immune system. Initially, stress will stimulate the immune system to keep you fit for the fight or flight response. However, over a long-term period, will weaken the immune system, will be more susceptible to viral illnesses such as colds, flu, and it will also affect our recovery rate from these illnesses and also injury. And then on top of that, other symptoms might include things like agitation, moodiness, avoidance of others, feelings of overwhelm, worthlessness, low energy levels, racing thoughts, constant worry, only seeing the negative, procrastination, poor judgment into decision-making skills, and an increase in addictive behaviours and changes in appetite. And I wanted to spend a bit of time just going over this with you because I hear so many people say, well, once this or that has happened, everything will return to normal and I'll be okay. But unfortunately, the body gets itself into a habit of behaving in a particular way and it can become increasingly difficult to right itself. So the average human adult body has approximately 30 to 40 trillion cells. So you can begin to understand why it's so important to look after ourselves. Unfortunately, a lot of people make excuses that they're too busy, they don't have enough time, not enough money, or have more important things to worry about, and that their family are more important than them. Yes, when we are under stress, this is exactly the way we think, because it's too painful to look after ourselves. And so it's easier to push our attention onto others. And I was exactly like this. I brushed all my stresses away, saying exactly what so many other people say. And eventually I felt the full effect of the consequences. So what I want to do is to help you skip some of those hurdles, help you eliminate some of the pain and get to a better place more easily. We all have a story to tell, but it's what we do with our story that is important. I thought my life was pretty good, with good supportive parents, a good education, good holidays. But then suddenly in 1987, it was all thrown into disarray with no warning when I was 23 years old. The information I was given, suddenly confronted with, took me totally by surprise. And in fact, it threw my whole family, except my mum, who had been carrying this information for 2 years. And this is the exact reason I support people the way I do, because of the struggle me and my family went through when my dad decided to undergo gender reassignment treatment. You may be wondering, with all the trans chat, what the big deal was. Today, there is a lot of support, but back in 1987, there was very little. And as a family, we had to muddle through. So, who was around in 1987? Put yay or nay in the chat box if you would like to. Let's, see who was about at this particular time. Yes, Deborah, Anne, me, Ian, yeah, lovely. So, as you will know, nay, Alison, nope, lovely. Martin, yeah, yay, Margaret, lovely. So, Lauren, no. That's lovely, thank you. So, for the people who were about in 1987, very few people had computers. There was certainly no social media to allow you to link up with like-minded people as a way of finding support. I certainly didn't have any friends whose dad wanted to be a woman, and this meant we were very much on our own. So how do you tell people your dad wants to be a woman? Well, for a start, I couldn't, because I was told it was a secret, which was never verbally lifted. It felt like the past 23 years of family life was fake. At home, Dad wasn't he, him any longer. It was Joan and she, he. And the confusion in my head of Dad, now Joan, started to take its toll. When at work or out socially, I had to have my wits about me and found myself talking about Dad or Joan and she or he in the same sentence. And I was just waiting for someone to pull me up on this fact. But perhaps people thought it was just me being in my own strange head. You may be thinking that Dad and Joan are the same person, and to an extent they are, but also they aren't. Joan looked different, sounded different, started to take a different role within the home. I was being introduced to a different circle of friends. And none of this sat easily with me because I was trying to understand it. I was trying to understand how this had happened. And also, I didn't want to lose my dad, my father figure, the man who made everything right for me when I was little. So I did what most people do under great stress. I brushed all of those thoughts and feelings aside and threw myself into being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect dog owner, the best teacher, getting the perfect weight and being the best daughter I could possibly be. Eventually, all of this baggage and the pressure of trying to meet perfect took its toll. My emotional and mental exhaustion began to affect my physical health. I wasn't listening to the aches and pains as I was experiencing. I wasn't listening to the tightness in my body that was keeping me awake at night and made me feel like an 80-year-old woman when I was 40. I wasn't listening to what my fears and my tears were trying to tell me. Have any of you experienced this? Pop the yay or nay in the chat box if you want to. So you take a painkiller, but the pain doesn't go away or only relieves it temporarily. Then I went into malfunction mode. There's either a lot of noise going on in your head and you don't know what to listen to, or there is a stony silence making you feel detached from yourself and your life. Thank you, Ian, for being open about saying yay. And being able to make a decision is virtually impossible. The feelings of not caring about yourself and wanting to run away starts to set in. I hated myself and everybody around me. Is any of this starting to sound familiar to you? You know, if you want to, pop the yay, nay in the chat box. Thank you, Deborah. Yes. What happened next? Thankfully, a lovely work colleague, Judy, she caught me. She picked me up and instructed me of what I was going to do. She spoke to my boss, she phoned my husband, and once she'd established I was safe to drive home, she instructed me to go straight home, to call my GP, book an appointment to see them urgently and get a sick note. She would call me later that day, and she did. I was quickly given 6 NHS counselling sessions. The first session, I talked a lot around the subject matter, but nothing specific. The second session, I admitted to what the problem was, and the counsellor's eyes lit up with excitement. Her first client with trans issues. I took the advice she gave me, but it didn't really work for me. The day of my third session arrived, but the family dog had died that morning, so I cancelled the session and I didn't go back. Between that second and third session, I realised what I needed to do. I couldn't change the past, my parents, or my dad's decision to change gender. All I could do was change me, the way I was thinking and feeling from that day on and forwards. This exceptionally long process of coming to terms with my dad's choice finally taught me a lot about myself. So much so that I eventually wrote When Dad Became Joan, Life with My Transgender Father, and the 7 steps to living your new normal, which is part 2 of my book. And I want to briefly share with you the 7 steps. So 1, the importance of our values. 2, hand on heart. 3, managing your belief systems. 4, stop playing the victim. 5, laws of attraction. 6, acceptance. And 7, strategize your strategy for change. So we're going to start off with step 1, the importance of values. So our values are what are important to us. They are our rule book to life. They help us make decisions and help us lead our life. And there are 2 sets of values. There are our secondary values and our core values. So the secondary values are the big things such as our home, holidays, work, money, qualifications, that sort of thing. And our core values are what we get from those secondary values, like love, respect, trust, authenticity, kindness, understanding, confidence, freedom, excitement. But unfortunately, we can lose track of them and don't stop to think about them until it is suggested to us or we hit rock bottom. And if you are experiencing this, here is what I'd like you to try. So first of all, I'd like you to investigate both your secondary and your core values. List them so that you can see them in black and white. How do you use them in your life? And how are they supporting your family? What are the benefits of them to you, and why do they benefit you? So let me give you an example. Choosing a secondary school for your child. What are the options available to you? How does this school fit in with your child's personality, likes and dislikes? How close is it to home? How about the other children going to the school? What sort of a journey is it for them to and from school? How does the school ethos fit in with your family? I remember when we were looking for a secondary school for our children, we went to look at a great school. They had a pet corner and a vegetable patch, which was really appealing to us. But it was also a boarding school, and they would have had to have gone to school on Saturday mornings and bank holidays. And we like to go away at weekends, and especially bank holidays. So that would have interfered with our family life. So we had to have a little rethink about that. But this is where understanding your values helps you to make decisions. Step 2, hand on heart. Getting back in touch with your feelings can be really, really hard, especially when you spent so long trying to avoid them. And I just want to give you a word of warning here. This exercise will often give rise to thoughts and feelings you don't like, you feel ashamed of, you feel uncomfortable about, because you may have spent a lot of time trying to avoid them, brushing them away, and sweeping them under the carpet. So putting your hands on your heart is about connecting your thoughts and your feelings so you can start to link them together. It's about being totally honest with yourself and then implementing. So, first of all, put your hand on your heart, shut your eyes and take a few deep breaths and ask yourself, how am I really feeling? A question nobody likes to be asked when they are really stressed out. How am I really feeling? What is it that I'm really feeling? Okay, and the key is really, and this is the word that should get to the honesty bit. Why am I feeling this? What's the benefit of feeling this? How is this affecting me? How is this affecting the people around me? How is this affecting my relationships with them? And what is the long-term effect of this? A series of searching questions, but all important, all really important. Then, when are you going to start downloading all of these feelings? How will this make me feel? Yes, it might make you feel tearful and ashamed and confused. But what are the benefits of feeling this? Or perhaps the benefits are going to be, I will have actually released these feelings and the load will start to be taken away from me. Again, a few searching questions that, will make you feel emotional, but this is the start of getting to the bottom of what's really going on inside of you. And don't be afraid of these feelings, because these feelings are letting you know what is important and what needs to change for the better. Step 3, managing your belief system. So our belief systems are what we uphold to be true about ourselves and others. And, you know, this develops over 3 stages in life. So the first stage is the imprint stage, from about birth to 7 years old. We learn our belief systems from our parents, our caregivers, our siblings, and, you know, our minds are like sponges. You know, whether the feedback we get from the influential people are good or bad, we soak it all up. The second stage is the modelling stage, from about 8 years old to 13 years old. And we start to copy highly influential people. So, you know, as children, we start to copy parents, teachers, you know, instructors, for example, people who we spend a lot of time with. Then the third stage is the socialization stage, which is about from 13 years to 21 years old. And young people are influenced by their peers, people they admire and start to relate to. And they may begin turning away from the earlier programming and beliefs, which can be really hard for some parents. But it is at this stage that our belief systems are also heightened by our own individual levels of positivity and negativity, our self-esteem and confidence levels. So, you know, you can be affected by how others respond to you. All of this can make an impact on our subconscious. We will respond without being aware of why. You see, our memories are very fickle. We will remember what we choose to remember and forget what is really true or made up. And if we have a lot of limiting beliefs, if someone says something negative to you, about you, for example, your subconscious will play this in the back of your mind, telling you that this is the proof and that's why life is like the way it is for you. In other words, it's reinforcing what you believe to be true. So use the following questions to help you find some answers. What do you believe to be true about yourself? And then, to link with that, where did this belief come from? And this may take a little time to reflect over the years and find the answer to this one. How do you know it to be true? Perhaps somebody told you so. What proof is there? How would you like it to be different? Think back in your life and find a better, happier belief to take this place. And what is there to reinforce this new, better, happier belief? Very, very important if you want to start changing things around, is looking for something to replace what you don't want. Step 4. Stop playing the victim. Okay, playing the victim is what I was great at for years when my dad made his announcement to change gender. This role I played stopped me from moving on. And here are some questions to ask yourself if you are feeling stuck in this way. Why do I play the victim? Use the hands on your heart exercise to help you. That second step, you can keep using it over and over again to help you connect, the thoughts and the feelings together to really get down to the honesty. Why has it upset me so much? Put your hands on your heart. Why has it upset me so much? What does this give me that I might not get if I didn't play the victim? What are the long-term benefits? I've just seen your comment, Deborah. Thank you very much. What are the long-term benefits of playing this role? What would I feel like if I didn't play the victim any longer? How would I behave? How would life be better for me? I played the victim for many, many years, and that's why I struggled to move on. I just couldn't get over the fact that I didn't like not having someone to call dad any longer. So I played this game inside my head that I was the victim here, but really it was my dad. He had been living with this since he was about 5 years old. And I was saying to myself, look what my dad has done to me. Look how upset I am, which was making me feel special in a weird sort of a way. And I didn't have anyone else to turn to, so I felt exclusive in a way. And I would use this as my excuse. And I was excusing myself for these feelings because nobody would pull me up on it, because I wasn't talking to anybody about it. I wasn't talking to anyone about it because it was a secret. So as soon as I started challenging myself on it, I was slowly able to start adjusting my thought processes, adjusting them to play a different role in life that was making me more accountable for my thoughts and my feelings. So this leads me on quite nicely to step 5, laws of attraction. So this step is about how our mind reacts to what we see, hear, and think. If you want to attract better, happier, brighter things in your life, you need to remove those old blinkers and look and hear through new, more open, vibrant senses, and ask yourself the following. What words, phrases am I using that are making me feel negative? How do I want to feel inside? Again, put your hands on your heart. How do I want to feel inside? What have I noticed that I like that made me feel better about myself, happier, and made me smile? How did it make me feel? How did I think today? What made me think that? What words, phrases could I use instead to make life nicer, happier, and more content for me? This exercise is a bit of a strange one because you need to keep a tab on your thoughts so you can, as you go through your day, you need to catch that negative thought as they come along, and you need to stop them and change them into something more user-friendly for yourself. It will take time and practice, but when you do it for the first few times, it will make you feel really great about yourself and make you feel so much more in control. So, for example, you realise your day isn't turning out as good as you would like it to. You suddenly notice yourself saying that no wonder it's a bad day. It all started off because I stubbed my toe on the bed frame. I got downstairs and the dog had been sick in the night. The kids were argumentative and were being fussy over their breakfast after getting up late. All this has made me late for work, and to top it off, all the traffic lights were on red. I shouldn't have got out of bed this morning and just called in sick. The day is a write-off. The day is a disaster. But actually, all of these are a succession of incidents. You know, stubbing your toe came about probably because you weren't as careful as you usually are walking around the bed. The poor dog couldn't help being sick. Perhaps he'd eaten something you didn't notice on your walk the previous night. Kids being kids are often slow at getting out of bed for school. You know, perhaps they went to bed late, and being fussy over breakfast, is that a one-off? Or are the kids like it all the time and it just feels worse on this occasion? Sometimes with the traffic just being the way it is and the speed you're driving at means you just happen to catch the lights on red. But this is the time to stop, take a breather, and get a bit of perspective on the day. Change that law of attraction into something that you want instead. So, how do you want to feel about the day? Change it. It's all in our head. Change it. What can I look for that is more positive? What has gone well for me so far that I haven't noticed? Yeah, this question is all about taking those negative blinkers off and using the more open and brighter senses. Step 6, acceptance. How do you accept something you don't like or haven't asked for? It's easy to be on the outside, but when you are in the thick of it and you are struggling and you are fighting with your conscience, this will have an effect on seeing the good things in life. Life isn't totally bleak. Even in the bleakest times, there will be glimmers of goodness, brightness, kindness, but these can be trampled on by the negativity and the darkness you're experiencing. So think about the situation you're struggling with. Why did this happen? What effect has this had on me? What could have been different? How did I handle it? Again, hand on heart. You know, perhaps you need to put your hand up and say, I didn't handle it well. How will I recognise these feelings again? What can I do to reduce the risk of it happening again? What have I learnt from it? What are the benefits of having experienced this? And this is really important. What are the benefits if I don't accept this? You know, this is rather like having an agreement, you know, being able to agree to disagree with yourself. You know, I don't like this, but you know what? I haven't any choice. So I just need to have to accept it so that I can move on to something better. Write it down if you need to. Write what it is and itemize it so that you've got it and you can go back to it if you want to and readdress it. And the final step, step 7, strategize your strategy. This is all about mind mapping. Mind mapping is a great way of getting a lot of ideas down on paper, but you need to have an open mindset. So get your equipment ready, a large sheet of paper, pens, coloured pencils, and go back to that hand on your heart exercise. Shut your eyes. Breathe. Relax and allow your mind to think, to wonder, to ponder on your life, the people around you, what you want to be different. This might be home, family, friends, work, health, fitness, holidays, qualifications, all your secondary values. And make a centre point in that large sheet of paper and put yourself in it. It could be your name, a picture, a symbol, but make sure it is positive. Then use your page to your benefit with extensions out from that centre point with your secondary values. Just use the keywords. And then you can branch out from these keywords with what you need, want, how you can start to change them. Again, just using keywords and take a look at it. What do you notice? Which could you start working on easily? But which is the most important one to work on? And also to think about which one could make the biggest difference to you. Because once you start working on one thing, there is going to be a ripple effect through the rest of the key areas that you want to be looking at. And then start making an action plan of what you're going to do and when you're going to start doing it. And make yourself accountable to these actions, because remember, nothing will change if you don't start taking action. It's like Mr. Ford said, if you keep doing what you've always done, you will keep getting what you've always got. I always remember this quote because it helps me keep moving forwards. You know, and this is all about work in progress. It's about to, keep building on it and taking action. And just as importantly, notice the changes that are coming about. And if it's not quite right, well, you can tweak it, make it work for you to benefit you and the people around you. Now, it might sound as if all of these steps sprang to mind one day when I woke up. I've been on a lot of courses, live webinars, and I got this feeling too from other people. But no, it didn't happen like that at all. It took a long time to figure all this out and to keep myself accountable to it. And I also had to adjust my, a lot of ideas, so that I could really home in on different things. And as well as these 7 steps, I also started to undertake other exercises to help me think and feel differently about myself, to help me be happier, more content, enjoying my family, to help my body feel stronger. And all these were, and today, are part of my coping mechanisms. So this included journalizing, exercising differently, stretching, breathing, gratitude, quiet time, adjusting my mindset. And eventually I found a complementary therapist, that I enjoy using. But it wasn't always easy, and it could be really boring at times. But what I realized was, if I couldn't be bothered and I became lax, after a few weeks, I would start noticing the difference. But gradually, with all of this I'd put in place, the weight began to lift from my shoulders. I didn't feel like an 80-year-old any longer. And I began to live life again according to my rules, not the rules of the baggage I'd been carrying for so long. I felt fitter, stronger, more relaxed, not so tired. I had a set of coping mechanisms that work for me. Some I used all the time, and others I pick up and put down when I could feel myself tipping off my balance. So I just want to tell you a little bit about one of my most challenging clients. I had a phone call from a daughter. She wanted me to work with her mother, Nora. She was agoraphobic and she was worried she wouldn't get to see her daughter get married. I thought I'd perhaps got a window of 6 months to prepare Nora, but no, the wedding was in 6 weeks. I agreed and I went to work with Nora in her home. When I arrived, Nora was riddled with arthritic-like symptoms. She was scared to death of going outside, even to hang the washing on the line, and struggled with panic attacks. So we spent a lot of time talking, and I took her through some breathing exercises, relaxation exercises, and a visualization exercise similar to the one you did briefly at the beginning of the session. There was a lot of crying, a lot of excuses, but eventually we managed to complete the exercises. She smiled, and we went for a brief walk in the garden. I gave her some exercises to do, and I went to see her the next week. Nora was a changed person. She looked happier. Her skin was rosy. She moved better, breathed better, and had been to the end of the path on her own. Her hands and her fingers looked healthy and straighter. And just as important, she wasn't in any pain. It was wonderful to see her. And we continued to work together up to the day before the wedding. And she called me on the big day. She had stayed at the hotel the night before. She was able to do the breathing and visualization exercises without anybody noticing. In fact, she felt so great and excited, she had to leave the conversation because she wanted to go and help her family. She had done it and she felt great. And as you can imagine, I was absolutely thrilled. But this example just shows how the stress had controlled her life for all of those years. Her body had aged prematurely, giving her lots of symptoms that restricted her so much. Her whole family was being affected. And once Nora had started to breathe properly, it allowed her body to relax and think of great thoughts again. And the difference was immense. So, in August 2017, my world changed dramatically again. I had a phone call to say that my 20-year-old son had had a mountain bike accident and was being airlifted to hospital. We were advised to get our bags packed, get into our camper and start our journey up the M6 to Scotland. We would be kept informed as to which hospital he would be at. All we knew was that he could see, hear, talk, and was being well looked after by numerous emergency services and his best mate. We all know of flight, fight, freeze, and form response. How many of you have been in a situation where this has kicked in? Pop the yay or nay in the chat box if you'd like to. My husband and I are thankfully very practical people. Deborah, thank you for being so honest. Yeah, thankfully we're very practical people. And we went into the 5th F, function mode. We were in a situation where we didn't have any real understanding of the implications. We just had to be practical, quickly organise ourselves, cancel work commitments for the next day, and inform only the necessary people, pack, get on the road, and get ourselves and the camper fueled up. Of all our journeys to Scotland, I have never been so alert. My husband and I kept conversation light, awaiting our instructions, Googling the address and punching it into the sat-nav. This happened 3 times. We didn't know what to expect. All we knew was we were going to walk into a room full of people we barely knew or didn't know at all. We were going to walk into a situation we had never experienced before. Margaret, thank you. Yay. I'm not saying I didn't start to get panicky. This was my child, you know, but very quickly I had to start implementing some of those coping skills I had spent so long practicing breathing previously. Breathe. Focus the mind on something lovely. The silhouette of the Lake District against the beautiful sunset. I'm not saying I didn't want to collapse on the ground and sob when we couldn't find our way into the hospital at 11:45 at night. Breathe. Focus, calm down, relax. And then I knew I had to find someone to ask directions. And over the next 12 months, I wasn't in function mode all of the time. I did my fair share of fighting my husband, my son's girlfriend, some of the hospital staff, and even my son. Yes, I felt so desperate. The pain in my heart was so intense. I did have self-harming thoughts. But I didn't follow through. Because over the last 20 years, I'd taken the time to learn about myself, what the balance is with my mind, body, and spirit, what it feels like emotionally and physically, what it feels like when I start to go off balance, and how far am I going to allow myself to fall off my balance. And during this period of time, I quickly realised that nobody could make my feelings better for me. All the people who love me could listen, try and soothe me, try and say the right words, but nobody could take that pain away. The only thing I could do was use what I'd learned previously, tweak it and make it work better for me in this situation. And yes, some days it didn't feel as if it was working, but I had to persist. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is so important to learn, because the further you fall off your balance, the harder it is to get back up and save yourself. The damage will be done not only to yourself, but to other relationships. You see, when I was playing the victim over my dad and Joan, it had affected my physical health and I didn't like it. The headaches, pain in my shoulders and my neck and my lower back and my right sciatic nerve, and whether you like where you are, at in your balance or not, this is what I want you to try. And start learning from the answers. So where is your balance? What does it feel like to you? Write it down. Spend some time and write it down. What does it feel like to you? What thoughts do you have? How are you relating to others? How can you measure all of this? It may be numbers, colours, holiday destinations, temperatures, food. You can be quite creative about this. Then, when will you know you need to take a good hard look at your coping mechanisms? What is different between where you are and aren't off your balance? How are you feeling? What's different about your behaviour, your sleep patterns, your eating habits, your lifestyle choices, for example? How are you relating to other people? Where are you on the scale of balance? That number, colour, holiday destination, temperature, food. Something for you to work on, or something else for you to work on. So there we have it. A whistle-stop tour of how to start making yourself more resilient when life really throws the shit at you. So back to the 2 questions you need to ask yourself when you're feeling really stuck, desperate, and feel as if you have no get-out clause, when you can hear that inner voice urging you to do something uncharacteristic. If you're having these feelings and thinking these destructive thoughts, your mind will be running through a process to get to that stage of either the self-destruct or the turnaround and walk away. And the key is to tapping into it as quickly as possible, to stop, to put a pause on the thought process and to give yourself more options. The 2 questions to start connecting with these subconscious thoughts you need to be asking yourself are why and how. Why do I feel like this? If I do this, how is this going to affect me and my family, the people I love and who love me? Remember, hands on your heart and be honest with yourself. At this stage, I just need to add a bit of a clause to this to make it very clear. For someone who is already in the habit of self-harming as a release of pain, will probably not recognise this thought process because they have already speeded that thought process up to the extent that they don't recognise that process any longer. And in this case, I would recommend that they go through a process of slowing those thought processes down so they can begin to recognise and to start identifying the right place to ask themselves these questions, allowing them to begin to change this habit and reverse the self-harming process. So to be honest with you, any off-the-handle emotion that you are experiencing, the why and the how questions are always a good question to ask yourself. And in a moment, I'm going to offer you a 1-hour conversation and a copy of my book, When Dad Became Joan, to the first person who types their name and contact details into the chat box. I will say ready, steady, go when the time comes. But remember, you are not alone. And when you learn about yourself, you have more understanding about yourself. The more understanding means you have a better internal communication system. Better inner communication leads to more options for you. More options will lead to better decision-making skills. And all of this will have a huge knock-on effect with your communication system and with the people who are important to you. I hope you have been able to take a lot from this session. I have certainly enjoyed sharing it with you. Now, it's the offer of the 1 hour conversation with me and a copy of my book. And I'm going to go ready, steady, go. Get your name and your contact deals in that chat box. Thank you very much. Jill, you'd already put your name in, but I have no contact details from you. I am sorry about that. So, are there any questions that you would like me to answer immediately? If not, but you want to have a personal conversation with me, then book a 30-minute chat with me, all right? Let me just pop this up here. Tomorrow, you will be receiving an email with all of these details, the link to be able to listen to this again, and the link to be able to book a 30-minute chat with me. All right. So don't worry if you haven't had that pen and paper ready. I think forgiveness is another strategy. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deborah. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I've had a lovely evening. And I just want to say, I hope you have a peaceful and lovely Christmas and New Year. With all of the uncertainty of the forthcoming weeks, I hope you get to spend